Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity.
Recording in progress. That's what we're supposed to say when we start BIMThoughts, I think, especially when it's on the Zoom. And if you are wanting to see us, you have to jump to the YouTubes to see us. If you just want to hear us, you can stay right here on the podcast. Either one, we're happy you're here. So we have what we've got Carl and Dana, of course, right? Right.
Of course.
What have you guys been up to? Anything good?
No.
All this nice warm weather, right? Hopefully not too hot. Like
well,
where you're at.
It's 87 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
that's
not too bad
for Vegas.
Not too bad at all. To play golf tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be, tomorrow will only be 99 degrees.
Ooh, only.
Yeah.
Not triple digits. You'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Saturday, 107. I keep looking like this because I have a DAC board. If you don't know what a DAC board, look it up, DAK board. It's pretty cool. Anyway, we have somebody special joining us. Is it Johan? Did I say it right?
Yes.
It's another Christmas miracle. I got a name right.
Well, I guess you guys have Johans over there in that part of the world, right? It's not
but I screw up John.
It's endearing if Bill butchers your name.
Yeah, if I get the name right, it's something.
That's good.
It took me about a year to get the DeFilippi right.
And now he's a pro.
Now it just rolls off the tongue.
I could just bring him right into my family. He says it just like we do.
Right. Be kind of creepy standing there by that window, though.
You want to be on the outside? Just Bill looking in and waving?
Yeah, waving, because like, go away. We're supposed to be on podcast, not.
I might have to get a like a pop-up of Bill in that window.
That would be funny.
Like he's just always there.
Yeah, you need to make that happen. Yeah.
Need to just have it slowly pop up during the podcast and then go away. Yeah, that would be good. Johan, define yourself.
Yes. So I'm working at Arkio. It's a collaborative VR AR design tool. And maybe a little bit about my background. I've been working in architecture now for almost 10 years. I started my career mostly at Meccano Architects. It's a pretty known firm in the Netherlands. They were working on the New York Public Library, for example, and some other projects over the world. And I've always been very interested in using technology in the architectural field and helping other designers around me to embrace technology and BIM. And I always saw the struggle and kind of the broken process that we have in architecture, where creative people don't like to work with Revit and tools like Revit, and the engineers are fully embracing it. So that's been one of my focus points, like really focusing on how can we make this technology a lot more approachable for designers, so they don't feel like that they're not able to work with these tools, or they feel like this is too difficult for what they want to achieve. And that was also the starting point for me to look more into immersive technologies like AR and VR. So in 2016, I think most of you maybe still remember, like that first generation of VR headsets came to the market. Like we had these 5 that looked like a giant insect on your head, and the first version of the Oculus. And I don't know, did you guys get any of those first devices?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And you were wired up, like you could only go like 12 feet.
Right. You'd have to have somebody, you'd have to have a couple people watch you do it so you didn't fall or trip over the wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times.
It was good times. But do you still remember the first time you went into that VR experience, and what were you thinking back then? Like did anything came to mind?
Yeah, I needed to be better at a bow and arrow.
It's definitely more proactive than the
Uh-huh.
typical keyboard and mouse.
Right. I thought what was the biggest aha moment for me was when we were doing it. I asked the VR guy at our office to move it to a conference room.
Yeah.
Because it was in a big open space when we did it the first time. Because I wanted to see if, when you put it on in the conference room, if you are looking at the model of the same conference room, is the space the same? Do you feel? And it was perfect. It was the same. So that was very enlightening to me, that when I put that on in a small conference room, I think it was what, 20 feet by 12 feet. So whatever that is, 7 meters by 9 meters or whatever. I put that on, it felt like I was in the same room, which was pretty cool.
And I think that's exactly the power of that, like the immersion of virtual reality. You can really feel that skill, like you're being there.
Right.
And of course, this has a lot of use cases for gaming and training and all sorts of like use cases you can think about. But for the spatial quality, like communicating spatial quality, which is one of the key things that you're doing as an architect, it's almost like a no-brainer. Like why wouldn't you use this technology to at least communicate the spaces? And what I'm kind of dreaming of, and kind of the next step from that, is why wouldn't we use this technology to and your hands to create the spaces in a much more intuitive way? Because typically, like, our design software is pretty like it's pretty fun if you think about it. Like we're designing in 3D on these like nice all sorts of 3D programs, 3ds Max, Blender, all sorts of 2D like representations of how a 3D design tool can work. But we're just projecting it on a 2D screen, and then we're working on 2D devices, input devices, trying to make these 3D models. So like making these models using your hands, it's so much more intuitive. And like that's also what Arkio is all about, trying to make that a lot closer to like the physical model making that we are familiar with in architecture. And yeah, that's the journey started about 4 years ago, and the Arkio 1.0 is released just it was released 3 weeks ago.
Wow, that's great. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
I hope you celebrated.
Yeah, we did. Like it's been a pretty challenging task, I have to say.
I bet.
More and more things got added over time.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we just were experimenting with basic shapes, creating basic shapes. Then people wanted to bring in their Revit models. People wanted to bring in their Rhino models. People wanted like, oh wait, why can't we make things more detailed? And they wanted more control. And before you know it, we're 3 years further.
Yep. And then you look at the competition and go, oh man, they did that. We need to do that now. And
Also, like the standards of VR have been increasing rapidly. Like the technology is really, it got a lot more user friendly, but also the tools itself. Like you see a lot of really cool. There's actually quite a lot of design tools already in virtual reality.
Oh yeah.
Try Tilt Brush or Gravity Sketch or any of those tools.
I have not.
Tilt Brush.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl has. Dana's tried everything.
Yeah. No.
I love that Bill has this idea of me that I like just tinker in all the things. I want to, of course.
Yeah.
I wish that the days, like I wish I didn't have to sleep. I wish I was one of those people that didn't require 8 hours of sleep to be like a decent human being. Because I would just do that at night.
You need to move to Oregon.
Bill's got an answer for everything.
Yeah. As you were talking, one of the talks from Knowledge Architecture popped into my head about immersive virtual reality. Jim Martin from Shepley Bunch, I don't know how to do their last name, but he did a VR of teaching designers how to do ADA bathrooms.
Okay.
And so what he did was he he made these 4 bathrooms, and you had a waiting room that you were in your VR, and then you'd walk into one, and it would show you all of the measurements and everything on the wall. And then you'd walk into another one, and you would try to figure out what was wrong and fix it inside of the VR model. That was pretty cool. So I put that in the chat, and Carl will put that in the notes, I hope, so people can watch that. But that is a really interesting way of using VR. So let's see your great stuff, unless Dana has a question that is just driving her insane.
Well, as you're pulling it up, because I definitely want to see it, and looking at your website, it's super intriguing. So I want to see you in there and doing the pushing and the pulling and all the fun things.
Yeah.
But as you're pulling that up, it would be really interesting to talk about the scalability of everybody having goggles, right? Like, it would be really awesome if Smith Group would give everybody an Oculus or something of the like, right?
And they're not doing that now?
They actually are doing certain groups, right? Certain design teams that require those things. They're sending them right home to their homes, and the whole thing, which is awesome. But the scalability of that, we can't send it to everybody.
I thought Google Glass would open that up for everybody, but it just didn't take off.
Yeah, also it did a bit more damage there, I think, than it actually did any good, because a lot of people got used to this 3 degrees, like only like spherical looking around as being VR. And
right.
I still remember when we still were doing these conferences, when those were still allowed, and hopefully they will be allowed to. A lot of people still are mind blown by the fact that these devices are now just like a portable device. They have like hand tracking, everything in there, and it's fully 6 degrees of freedom. They can move around, and like that. A lot of people haven't really experienced that part of VR yet, and that's still something to overcome because of the Google Cardboard and plastic stuffed things that you put your smartphone in,
or the PC on your back in a backpack.
Yeah.
Don't need that anymore.
Exactly. Which was a huge revelation when that happened, like cutting the cord and having the ability to just really walk around freely.
Yeah.
Especially with the AR rather than the VR kind of immersive experience, if you will.
So incredibly fast. If you think about it, like 2 years back, we were still, the backpacks and the VR goggles were still kind of a thing. But now we have these like $300 devices that have AR pass-through, hand tracking, like everything is in there already, and it's moving. Like I think 1-2 years from now, we'll have these glasses on a lot more people's desks. Like the Oculus Quest is a good example. I just received the new HTC Focus 3. It's like a more enterprise-focused standalone headset, and that one is. It's really clearly focused on enterprise because it has exchangeable, like the filters, so you can wash them easily and reuse.
That was one thing we did
use.
With ours is we bought extra of the foam pads. We bought a lot of extra foam pads, and when we would take it on site to do an owner's meeting or what have you, we had enough foam pads for every person in the room, just in case they wanted to change it out.
Yeah, but it's better to do it now for, like, I think hygienic became quite important since this.
Now it has. Yeah.
And before you know what was actually worn, like the conference, I still remember, like people are just playing the game and then hand it over to someone else, and it's like, is this thing damp? Yeah.
It's supposed to be wet.
Well, luckily things have changed a bit how they like also the headsets themselves, they start already looking up through it more. But there's still, I think, a long way to go also for software, like the big vendors to take VR serious. You start seeing them already taking a bit more serious. Adobe is doing some investments in it. Autodesk is exploring it a bit more. But most of the innovations still are driven by like young startups like ourselves, like redefining and redoing things with no attachments to the traditional ways of working.
I feel like AR VR is definitely one of those niches within BIM, that if you turn your eye for a minute or especially a day, it's like, what happened? Like there's so many different things and like news articles and technology and software and all these things that get released literally overnight, right?
Yeah,
it's like
it's going really
the way
fast.
that it's changing is just insane. So I guess this is a great segue to show us.
Yeah, we're ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, we want to see it.
Let's start
Ready to play.
sharing my screen. So
Look at that.
I have I can show a couple of things. We can also, like, I understood, Carl, you got Arkio running in your end in the end as well, right?
I do have it. I don't know that I have it set up right now, but I do have it. Do I need to get it ready?
Maybe at later point you can just join in and we can show the fun collaborative things you can do.
All right.
Wow.
Because that's actually
a digital Carl.
A major, or like one of the biggest things that we think will help in creating these new tools is putting collaboration at the start. And that's why it also took us a bit of time to make what Arkio is, because it's a fully collaborative multi-device modeling engine. And the best way to show it is just going in there and showing you a bit how things work. So what you're seeing right here, this is like the view I'm seeing in front of the table that I'm standing. And over here, I loaded a model of Singapore, but I can just, to show you, start from scratch, like I have here, a table where I can load any map. So let's go to the Empire State Building, for example. And I turn on the 2D buildings. What that will do is it will take OpenStreetMaps data, so publicly accessible data, and we just load that on the table for users to work on. So that's kind of the base that you start from. You can just load any address in the world as a city, and from there you would be able to, let's just bring up that menu again, erase some plots. Maybe there's going to be a new tower here, and in the erase plot, then I would be able to place like some of the assets that I have by default in Arkio, or some of the imported assets. And the imported assets themselves, they actually, we have integrations with Autodesk Revit, Rhino, and SketchUp. And it's pretty simple. You just, after you install the Arkio version for Windows, you get these plugins in your software, and you can just export the model you want to export from the 3D view you want to export from. And that will, let's just start it, it's okay. That will prepare the model for viewing on mobile devices, like the Oculus Quest, for example, this portable headset, or the iPads, or your Android phone. So it's reducing the geometry so that they can be loaded on smaller devices. And it will load it to Arkio, and that will show in that import drawer that I just saw. So in here, I already have some models loaded. You see, I have a Rhino model over here, and currently you see my Tower 10 is now updating again because I re-exported that one. So let's just see, I have a twisty tower here. A Rhino twisty tower. I'm just going to put that thing in here. And it's basically like a physical modeler. Once you bring things into Arkio, it becomes an object you can just pick up and interact with. And the best part is that when you're making new geometry, you can actually draw on top of that model, and the geometry that you make natively in Arkio, that's parametric and really easy to use and adjust using your hands. So you see me, like it's almost like some of the push-pull functionality you see in the meshing tools in Revit or in Formit. And that makes it super easy for designers to just mesh out some quick ideas. And let's just pick this one up.
So as you're doing this, and we're watching it live here via Zoom, which typically slows things down. This is ridiculously fast. So just to clarify, you're doing this completely live. So the people watching, this isn't a video. This is you doing this real time as we're watching.
Yep, and I'm just shaping something now using my hands and aligning it. And the best part of VR is that I'm really seeing the model as it, like, I'm in 1 to 500 scale. This is really the physical model in front of me right now, and I can interact with that model on this scale, or I can just jump into the street on the 1-to-1 scale and see that model and adjust it from here as well. So the geometry that is created in Arkio, like our smart geometry, as I can say, that's fully adjustable, and I can keep editing it from this scale as well. You see me just stretching the tower down a bit, moving it like this, and I can jump back up and make further edits to the design like this. Maybe I want to get rid of that one, just throw it away. Then there's a lot of things that we put in there that are familiar with 3D parametric tools like Revit. So if you're familiar with Revit, you kind of see already what's happening when you're stretching things together. You kind of feel that they're snapping together, and once they snap together, it's making a parametric constraint. So currently this house is not giving me the result I want, but let's just make a bit cleaner scene so you guys can see. So this is just an empty table. I'll just make a tiny house like this.
It literally looks like you're working at like 10 speed. You know, like he's so speedy. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny as you're saying that, and for those of you listening to the podcast, you definitely have to watch the video. But when you watch designers that have been using SketchUp for years, this is kind of how they iterate. Yeah. But he's able doing that, that same speed, that same time live here inside of VR. And for me, the earth-shattering thing was when he was walking through the demonstration in downtown Singapore, New York, or wherever he was, and doing it in 1 to 500 scale, and then instantly going down to real 1-to-1 scale and looking up at this 60-story tower, making adjustments, and then going back to scale. Like that really would be game changer for being able to do it right, because it looks like it's going to leave a shadow. It looks like it might do this, but when you're standing there looking up 60 stories, it definitely gives you a different perspective. And that the fact that you could do that instantly is literally mind blowing.
Like in the case of towers, of course, that's it's pretty impressive, but like just small things like this, where you can just see the see-throughs in your urban environments and make adjustments to that, that entrance that you want to have, or work even on inside spaces. There's a couple of models that I can show that really highlight how VR is really helping you to make better decisions than you would do on the flat screen when you're working on designs. The best and the funnest is actually just inviting you to join me, Carl. I don't know if you're already ready to do that.
I've loaded up the Windows app. I've got it here. I haven't got the headset on yet, but I've got the app loaded up in Windows.
So I will just go back to New York, and I'll just clear out a bit more buildings over here. So let's just maybe got away these. I hope that was no one's house that's watching.
Me too.
And
well, they might be excited because they'll get a new house.
Yeah, maybe a new house. So maybe good, if people are watching so far you've been seeing what I'm doing with my hands and using the virtual reality goggles, but the flat version that Carl is seeing is actually looking like this. So we have the VR version of Arkio and the flat version. And the flat version is similar to the VR version. You can do pretty much the same thing. You can import geometry, you can place things around. So you can even see my little head floating around here. And let me just show you some of those things. So I just, when I'm creating things, I just press my right mouse button to finalize the shape. I just push the shape inside the other shape to make the voids. And also that geometry, I can just edit, and I can edit, like distort the geometry if I want to. So it's really like the shaping functionality works the same in the flat version as the VR version. But of course, the VR version is a lot easier to just pick up, rotate, and scale like this one single movement to do all these interactions using your hand gestures. And the flat version, you would be a bit more limited, like also like flat tools are more limited.
Yeah.
In that sense.
And so you're able to just click on what you're about to click and give me.
Yeah.
So I can just copy that information.
If you want to join, you could just like go to the meeting tab.
It's connecting now.
Are you going to the Arkio demo?
Yeah, it's connecting.
Okay. Great. Then let me quickly go, because you might have been the first one. Yes, you're the first one. So then, like, I will now mute myself here because we don't need to hear the audio. Since you were the first one, we assumed you are the host, like the first one making the meeting.
Oh, so that's why it's in a different, gotcha.
And I will just make myself the host now. Just
okay.
Make a little start. And then I can share that model that I was working on before. So we have, I think, this one. I'll just share that in the meeting with you. So you should see New York City now with that little twisted tower that we saw before.
I do, and I see your little blue head floating in the sky.
Yes, there it is. It's not that little, it's a pretty big head.
Well, actually, yes, true.
And since we're now in this session together, like you can see real time what I'm going to do. So and we could do this with all four of us, even if Dana and Bill want to join. Like, you can just download the app on your iPhone or smartphone or whatever device you have at hand, because the app is currently free, like to use, and we're planning to make it or to keep it in a free version available on our website for the coming time. And we'll have a pro version and an enterprise version for people that use it like really intensively with Revit and BIM360 and some of the integrations that we offer. So the free version is something to get started with, and then you can try it out a bit. You can join meetings of pro users, so bigger meetings of pro users. And the free version is for everyone that just wants to join in and attend the presentation or just get familiar with the app.
And for those seeing that really weird skinny red building, that's me live.
Yes,
that's you. That's the Carl.
I see the sketch over here. That was
yes,
one.
and my little scribble.
Yeah.
Delete it, and I will. We can like make a suggestion on the Empire State Building to put it over here. We're going to, maybe you want to make a hole in here. I don't know if you want to do that. Empire State Building is too cool. Maybe you just add a bit of an extension here.
That look how he interpreted Carl's sketch perfectly.
You mean the guest account?
Right. He took that scribble that Carl made, interpreted it perfectly, and put an expansion on.
And that's actually been the tricky part also, like the modeling operation. You see Carl adjusting that block over there. This is fully interactive. So I could have like 5 people around that model, push-pulling, trying to, like, I don't know if you know Revit work sharing, like when you come anywhere near an object that gets joined.
Right.
It's a pretty difficult task actually to be able to let Carl still work on this and me in the meantime make adjustments to the geometry below and just make like really make it really a collaborative meshing tool.
It is crazy how easy and intuitive it is to do this. I mean, I've used SketchUp, I've used FormUp. The push-pull is very similar, but the speed at which the collaboration happens is like, is there something quicker than instant?
Well, I don't know if you have ever seen an architect model buildings using like physical like foam blocks. it feels a bit like that, like the speed that intuitive direct feedback you get when you're phone blocking. It feels a bit like that, but a lot smarter because you're working with parametric shapes that you can just copy around, and you don't have to go back to the foam cutter and make another version of that. And what I'm doing here, I was using the split mode, and this shows that the building gets automatically cut into segmented floors. And here I can add some data to that tower, so we can show a bit the parametrics that are going on in Arkio. So this is not just like a mesh editing tool. It's like SketchUp, for example, is famous for not making such a BIM compatible models. This is actual solid geometry that's fully like quantifiable, so we can do these calculations in real time. And when I cut, really grab the building like this, you see how it automatically calculates the spaces that can be used. So in this case, I could put it like this: it's a minus because there's so many voids in here that it doesn't work anymore. But in real time, it's calculating the usable floor space based on like my projected area down. And when I just stack these things together, you see how it joins everything into smart sections and calculates and quantifies everything in real time. And you should see those numbers change as well on your end, Carl.
I do, and it's you know, I'm watching it on two screens. I've seen what you're doing, yeah. So I'm seeing it from your perspective, but then I'm seeing it live with this big blue head floating around, yes, doing things inside. So it's very cool. And I guess this leads to the next question with you saying that it's solids. Yeah. We saw how easy it was to bring content from Revit into the Arkio environment. What about in reverse? So as we're walking through and we're modeling this, get this basic shape, can we then bring it into Revit to refine it for our working drawings?
Yeah, so let me just show you an example. Like I have that scene that I was in when it started. It was like a Singapore, like this one. I'll just share that one. This, like it should load in a minute for your device now because
it's already loaded, yeah.
Okay, like this tower is probably still loading for you.
Yeah.
I got like an update notification here because I just exported the model from Revit again. I didn't really change anything over the tower, but I'm just going to update it.
Yep.
So that's like when there's a new Revit model or Rhino model available, it just updates, gives me an update notification. And this tower got created in Arkio. It's actually designed using, let me just show you, pretty easy. You just, yeah, make some solids. So I just created these towers as basically a bit like this, just cutting some voids, and then I was distorting things a bit like that. So this is how I created that shape already. I loaded that into Revit. I applied curtain walls to the masses that came into Revit. And I can do the same steps now. Like we already placed some custom furniture I placed in over here, some Barcelona chair and some little table with some tiny models on there and a person. And all of the geometry that got placed in here and got modeled. So let me just put a tree on here and a sketch. So maybe there's a person with an iPad making a note on this model, or you, Carl, maybe you have some notes that you want to have on this for the Revit model. Maybe you just want to cut this building a bit like that. So this scene, if I'm exporting that, I can just use the export button, export to the Revit file. This will put a file in my documents that can then be used in Revit to import. So let's just go back to Revit, and here I can just use the import feature. Let me just go to another view first, because otherwise I don't see everything. So going to just import that scene, and this is a manual process now. Every time I have a new update from Revit, I need to export. I need to bring it into to Arkio by an export. And what we're going to be working on next is making this even more like a live link. So users are able to really collaborate, like their Revit person is actually in there seeing the changes that would be happening in Arkio Live in the Revit model.
Maybe make it like an inside app, like we saw.
Yes.
The Rhino stuff.
So here, like this, my UI is a bit weird here in this PC, but it allows me to pick either generic models or masses. So I'm just going to pick the masses. And if I had any previous Arkio stuff, I could replace it. And this will take a minute or two. But in the meantime, maybe I'll just show you some other Arkio stuff.
And so as that's loading and as you're moving around, I saw when you were doing the export, it was also OBJ. So you could create stuff here and then export it out for 3D printing.
Yeah, we have currently the Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, and BIM360 export, and an OBJ export. So the OBJ export is the most generic 3D mesh format that I think is accepted in any 3D app ever. So that should give you like ability to 3D print, because the models are they should be pretty watertight because we're working with mesh shapes. And like the Rhino has its own benefits, of course, bringing it to Rhino for design validations. And the BIM360 link that we have, it's basically firing up a design automation client. It's just firing up Revit in the cloud, making a new Revit file, loading all the Arkio geometry for you in a clean Revit file, and then you can just download it from BIM360, that file.
Plans for future IFC compatibility?
It's definitely in our, we've been looking at it because it's a solid modeler, and the metadata that got assigned in Arkio actually is living on in BIM, in Revit. So it's definitely something that we are looking into. But I think the focus first will be having the plugins for Revit and ArchiCAD work really good. So we are working good with those applications, and we can add the real-time collaborative layer on top of the BIM collaborative layer.
For sure. And then at the moment, those products, ArchiCAD, Revit, that you can get IFC from them. So it's just an extra step, but it's nice to know that it's on the roadmap.
Yeah, we're really positioning it as like, we don't want to call it BIM because it might scare off a lot of architects. They have really allergic to BIM when it comes to that. But it's really compatible with BIM, because you're not working with some mesh geometry. You're working with smart parametric CAD kind of geometry that we're familiar with in the industry. And that's also making it a pretty unique offering, because there are not so many options when it comes to like easy modeling with smart geometry in architecture.
Well, we also love to geek out a little bit about hardware here on the show. So any preferred, we see you're working with Oculus here in the video, but anything particular that you work with, Vive, any of the other units or hardware that's recommended?
I highly recommend the Oculus Quest 2, the one that I was just showing before. I don't know if people can see my webcam right now. So this is the latest device from Oculus, acquired by Facebook. There's one major downside to it. You need to have a Facebook login to it, and it's because Facebook is heavily sponsoring these devices. So that's why they can offer them for $300. So this is a fully standalone VR, even AR headset that has both controllers, the 6 degrees of freedom, hand tracking, AR, I already mentioned that. So $300 price tag, you cannot beat that. If you have a bit more money to spend, I would go for the Vive Focus 3 that just got released, because it has all the benefits of a wired VR headset, but it's completely standalone. Like, you can run it standalone, and you can just stream PC apps to the wireless device, like the Oculus Quest 2. It also supports your PC, can do all the heavy lifting, you can load the big Revit model in there, and it just streams the image to your wireless device.
Very cool.
My Revit is not so responsive as I hoped today.
It's Zoom and all this other stuff. So
Yeah, let's see what it's doing. It's still doing something.
and it's a demo. So
yeah, always live demo is always a risk, but like I do have a backup file that I can show later if this one doesn't run directly. But the geometry comes in as masses, and like based on those masses, there's mass families. You can exchange the families into whatever families in the project. And like the integrations that we have with Rhino is pretty similar. We just have the button exporting from Rhino and importing, and it does the same. Like it optimizes geometry because Rhino models are very nerdy and very heavy for mobile devices. So we optimize the geometry first so it can be loaded. And when it comes back, we try to make the geometry smart, but this is still a bit work in progress for the Rhino part. We want to have native Rhino surfaces like we do with native mesh surfaces in Revit.
And I really think that's revolutionary, right? I mean, I think that it's one thing to have these design tools that allow you to push and pull and do all the wonderful things that you've been showing are super easy to do within this type of technology with Arkio. So what does tomorrow look like? I mean, obviously, like I said, this is revolutionary in terms of, game changing for the industry.
It's really game changing because it can shortcut a lot of the weird processes that we have in architecture right now. Right? Like the fact that as an architect you have to work on, because of the limited presentation space you have, you need to work on one option, or you work on 3 options that you present to your client on a 2D piece of paper. Then someone goes with a marker on it, and like in the end, the drawings with all these markups, they get back to some poor guy or girl that has to change that Revit model or Rhino model again, has to make another 3 options. Like this can completely make that process interactive, and everyone can join it much easier. And you're working with 3D data. You're not longer forced to print that stuff on a 2D piece of paper to make the markups.
So what does that look like in terms of either, how we as an industry need to kind of integrate this type of software? And then also, what does the software of tomorrow look like? I know that's an extremely loaded question because a lot of that is very right. We can only kind of guess at some of those things, but what's your hypothesis?
I think the software of tomorrow it's going to hopefully be a lot more integrated and smart and playing well together, because we've been I think we've all had the experience of fighting with the different silos that the different software companies put around themselves. So it's a bit hard. Like we are often punishing ourselves and like as an architect or engineer, just getting something from Rhino into Revit has been like a study on itself almost. And the same is true for like SketchUp. The same is true for like there's all sorts of workflows that we try to figure out just to work together. And so far, the workflow that seems to work best is everyone just has to work in Revit. But that cannot be the answer, of course. Like there's a lot of people that are not comfortable with a technical program like Revit. How are we going to enable those clients or like designers? How are we going to enable those people to also join that digital like one model that we work towards? And these tools will just help to try to get away a bit from the paper and really focus on that geometry and see how we can help each other and push that geometry back and forward into the different applications where you need the geometry. I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, totally. Like I said, it's kind of an open-ended question, right? Because it's all kind of a guess. But no, I think that, the more that we can educate the designers of today on how to catch up to the designers of tomorrow, or even, the designers of today in a lot of ways, right? A lot of what we're seeing in terms of people coming out of school, forward-thinking people like Johan, right? Like all of these different
It's not only me. Actually, there's a lot of young, like new starting architects, a lot of interest from universities that we got. I think the generation that's coming into the field now, they already got, like they grew up with Minecraft, they grew up with Fortnite, they grew up with all this stuff that is fully interactive, real time. They will look at tools like Revit and think like, what the hell is this? So that generation is more than ready to like embrace things like this and start pushing it around in the firms. So in the meantime, you see that Revit model is loaded. So you see we get a little overview of all the materials we put in, the solids, the convert, the sketches. And that's basically, it's loading that cityscape. So the OpenStreetMaps data from Singapore got loaded in Revit here as a family. And you see that tower that I just created with a little tree on top is there. And even that imported geometry. So this is just like an OBJ of a chair. We just convert it into a family, and then you can just change it for your own furniture families.
That's great. And there's little Carl.
Yes. Unfortunately, I think Carl was not exported in the.
Oh, Carl didn't get exported.
Yeah, like only the geometry that got created, the sketches, they got exported, not the avatars.
I have to get an RPC made of Carl.
There you go. Just like our friend the polar bear, nay, the armadillo.
The armadillo. Yeah. That's right.
I do like the fact the sketches came with it. But I think
it's interesting for like when we first we just kept it and thought like, well, this could be very useful, and especially since we had more and more people, especially senior designers, they love joining design sessions with their iPad and this markup red stuff and everything. So it's been pretty interesting for them as well to just get these markups back into Revit, and then they can just do what it, like if they don't want to have it anymore, they just delete it, or they just make a floor in about that shape and delete it.
Yeah. Carl, I'm going to give you the honors of final thoughts today.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill, and I think it's a simple one. I think that, you know, for a 1.0 release, this is pretty impressive. I've watched the kind of different iterations sort of grow up throughout the last couple of years as you're getting ready to bring this full featured product to market, and it still blows my mind seeing what you guys are able to do. And I'll reiterate that for those of you watching the video, all of that you saw Johan doing was in fact live real time, and think of that the other side of the world on Zoom as I was in the platform working with him. So I think that just goes to show you the speed and the stability of the product. So by all means, check out Arkio.
Okay. Thank you very much, Johan, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Really, really cool to see what you guys have accomplished. You should be proud of yourselves. It's very, very nice. Good job.
Thank you very much.
I hope
this is just the first version, so let's see where
and that's okay. First version does a lot.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what the future brings.
Yes.
With the software and with the industry.
I'm very looking forward to that as well. And
all right.
If anyone has any questions, they can find more information on our website, and they can also download the app there, and they can always reach out to me if they have any questions.
Great. We'll have all that in the show notes. Thanks again.
Thanks.